Okay, so here we have the OneXplayer 2 and the AOKZOE A1, the 6800U model. So just a quick overview of these two devices. The OneXplayer 2 has an 8.4-inch 2K screen, and the AOKZOE A1 has an 8-inch 1200p screen. So 2560 by 1600 versus 1920 by 1200. So they're both 16 by 10 aspect ratio displays. This one is a higher resolution, it's also slightly bigger. So as far as these two devices, if I had to pick one, I would go with actually the AOKZOE. And it comes down to a few things. One is the ratio between the body, the weight, and the ergonomics. It feels perfect in the hand, for my hand size. Now the OneXplayer 2 is very ergonomic. It has a very big grip, but the weight distribution, it kind of feels off because the controllers are pretty much just empty, and all of the weight is just sort of isn't really distributed into your hands. It's pretty much just in the middle here, and it is rather large. So if you're pretty much sitting on the couch or laying in bed, playing in different angles, laying down, it's kind of like unwieldy. Um, so it's something that you probably wouldn't be sitting on like at a desk, like leaning over, playing like this. You don't want to be like holding it upside down or holding it at any weird angle, because it is rather heavy and not very balanced, because these controllers are pretty much just empty. The AOKZOE is much more balanced, because the weight is distributed across the entire body and not just in the middle there. Another thing is the screen, I think, is the perfect size without being like overly large. I think 8 inches is like the perfect screen size for a device like this, as well as the resolution. You can play more games at this resolution than you can at this resolution. I think the OneXplayer 2 is great because you have the option to disconnect the controllers, and they do have a controller connection adapter they just released, so you can pretty much hook these together and play like this in tabletop mode. So that is an option that you have. You can set it on the table and then use the stand, you connect the controllers, and then you can play like that. So that is a very good option to have. But for me, I'd rather go with the AOKZOE, just because also all of the like useful buttons are in here. Like the turbo button is in here, and the volume button, you have to choose if you want it to be a volume button or a function button. So it can either be a home button or the keyboard button. So it can't do both. You have to pretty much choose what you want it to be. Now, with the AOKZOE, you have the same functions, but they're much more user friendly, because you have your turbo button here, which brings up your menu. On the OneXplayer 2, it's on the top, so you have to go up here to get to that menu, and you can't adjust the volume with the volume keys unless you decide to take away some of your customized buttons. So if you wanted to get into this menu here, you have to, if you're playing, you have to pretty much take your hand off the controller, and then bring up that menu and then take it back. But with the AOKZOE, since that turbo button is right here, you can be playing and just put your thumb down there and bring it up. So it's just a little bit more ergonomic. That's my main takeaway from these two devices, is that the AOKZOE is more ergonomic. This device, the large screen is amazing, but the weight is not really distributed correctly, because these controllers are just so light and pretty much just empty, and that doesn't really distribute the weight evenly. But I will say, if you need that maximum screen size, that it is a very nice device. It does feel good. I didn't think that this connection would be as sturdy as it is. It does have a tiny bit of flex, but if you're not going to be like moving it like this as you're playing, you're more likely to rotate it sort of this way than this way. So you're not really going to be rotating it this way. You're more likely to be putting force on like this, so it doesn't really creak or move in that direction. So it is pretty good. I would choose the AOKZOE just because of the ergonomics, and the overall footprint is smaller, and the screen is only, is still the perfect screen size for me, I believe. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. but they all have the same ports. You have your ports here. I just don't like that you have to choose between volume or your custom buttons, and I don't like that if you're playing, your turbo button's on the top, and it's hard to reach your turbo button while you're playing. But that's just me. Anyway, they're both great devices. I prefer the AOKZOE, but that's just me. Also, the RGB on the OneXplayer 2 is only orange. You can't customize. I know there's a little thing. I don't even usually use the RGB, but if you're gonna give me RGB, it has to be RGB. It has to be all the colors. It can't just be orange. So for example, the AOKZOE, I can take this and I can make it any color that I want it to be. So I can make it red, I can make it blue, I can make it purple, I can make it green. But this is just stuck on orange. It looks good, the aesthetic is there, but it'd be nice to have, customizable RGB. That's just me. Anyway, this long-winded way of saying that they're both great. I just prefer the AOKZOE A1. Looking forward to the A1 Pro with the 7800U. That's coming in a few days. Not a few days, but like 2 weeks. Anyway, peace.